Imagine if every email you sent, you can make it more productive, higher impact, and ultimately generate less email by just rolling through a 3-point checklist. And that's exactly what I'm going to share with you today in this episode, so stay tuned. Welcome back to the Ben Fanning Show, where high achievers get productive, get promoted, and ultimately get the corner office. Make sure that you subscribe below to this to be notified of future episodes when they come out each and every Wednesday. So our topic today is a 3-point checklist to become more productive in every single email. Too often, emails are frustrating, confusing, and they don't get the reply that we're actually trying to get back. And it turns out this creates a spiral. Sometimes people call it a death spiral of email catastrophe, because emails are going back and forth, people are replying all, and it clogs up the email servers. And the most important emails that we need to be responding to and spending most of our time and energy on just get lost in the midst. So by simply using this 3-point checklist, you will increase your email productivity and ultimately get better results. Point number 1 is to prioritize the subject line of your email. This point is so critical because oftentimes when we see the subject line, number 1, it drives if the email is even going to be opened and when it's going to be opened. And then number 2, it frames up the email in our mind so people can, or in your recipient's mind, so they can process the email much more quickly. Yet, in corporate environments, usually the email subject line is completely ignored. Do a quick audit yourself of your own email. Look at your last 3 emails. Say, if I was to receive this email, would the subject line actually communicate what the email was about? And number 2, would it actually give them a reason to open it? Email marketers have known this for years. That's why they often recommend spending as much time writing the subject line of the email as you do actually writing the email itself, because if the email subject line isn't effective in getting it open and getting it understood, then the rest of the email doesn't even matter. You can look back years ago to paper and newspapers, and you can open those up and see that above the fold of the newspaper, there's a huge part of the newspaper dedicated to the headline, because the subject line of the email and the headline of the newspaper are actually very similar. If the headline or the subject line doesn't actually resonate, it's not going to get opened anymore. So go do that quick email audit and notice how you might be able to tweak that in the future on those email subject lines to make sure they get opened and they are understood. Number 2 in the checklist is to make your email easy to reply to. And this is so critical because if it's not obvious and easy to reply to, guess what? You're probably not going to get a speedy reply or a quality reply, or you may not get a reply at all. And let me tell you, there's nothing that will kill email productivity than not getting a response. I mean, that is just devastating. So the key second point of the checklist is, hey, is this email actually easy to reply to? And the way you do that is you make sure that the choice is obvious. Is it give them a yes or no? That's the fastest way to get a reply. Just let them reply with yes or no, or use voting buttons in the email. Number 2 is to use A, B, or C, or options 1, 2, or 3. You want to get a fast response from your friend or your partner on the movie options, on a movie selection for Friday night. Well, the key is just say, hey, you want option 1 or option 2? Which do you prefer? And watch how much more quickly you get a reply than if you would have put, hey, what do you want to watch on Friday night? See, open-ended versus closed and a strict number of options. Now, this takes a little more time to craft, but I'm all about increasing your productivity in the email. So again, the key is to give them limited options. Now, you can look no further than science to understand why this is so important. It's called the paradox of choice, right? The paradox of choice. When Barack Obama, during his presidency, in Vanity Fair, there's an article, when he goes to his closet, he may still do this today, when he went to his closet, there would only be a blue suit or a gray suit. He needed to conserve his decision-making for much bigger things than choosing out his clothes in the morning. And what he found was by limiting his lunch selection, so he would make these lunch selections weeks in advance on menus at one time, he wouldn't have to make decisions on what to order for lunch and often dinner. Same thing with clothes, right? Limiting the options helps you conserve and helps your recipient conserve their decision-making prowess for the big decisions and not waste it on the little stuff. And so from a productivity standpoint, again, make it easy to reply to and notice the difference that it makes for you and for others. Just like in point one, do a quick audit on your email. Look at your last 3 emails. Are they easy to reply to? If they weren't easy to reply to, then simply change that going forward. Maybe make a few tweaks. And in your very next email, ask yourself, hey, on this checklist, is this email easy to reply to? And if not, give them some choices and notice the impact. Point number 3 is probably the most uncomfortable, but also the most productivity boosting. And that is to simply give each email a clear deadline to reply to. You write out your email, and at the end of the email, you put please reply or please respond by 5 p.m. Eastern on Friday. Don't use ASAP, because that's open to interpretation. And don't just leave at 5 p.m. because you're leaving open the time zones. What I'm trying to help you do is become more productive and not create more confusion and more frustration in your own work by leaving these things open-ended. Why is this uncomfortable for a lot of people? Well, they're not used to giving deadlines in their email, and it may feel uncomfortable if you're interacting with your boss that way. So you want to put it across in a very clear yet polite way, right? This is not a threat, but you're putting a request in play, and they can negotiate. They can say, well, I can't get back to you by Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern, but I can get back to you by Tuesday at 10:30. There you go. That is a very specific way to move the ball forward and increase the probability of success of your email. Now, you can start using this when you even receive an email. You can say, I can't make that timeline, or just reply back, when do you need it by? I can get it to you by next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. So just by clarifying the deadlines of your email, you're going to have an immediate result on productivity. Things are going to get done faster and more effectively, and you're not going to be waiting around. Awesome. Now, let me tie all this together with something that happened to me several years ago when I was working in an organization and I was negotiating a contract for this company on behalf of 7 different locations. And I was in the middle of this negotiation and things were getting really amped up. And they put a request on the table that I needed to get a response to immediately. So I sent out an email to these 7 different location leaders with the subject line, please reply ASAP. And based on this 3-point checklist, you can probably guess how that went, right? Of the 7 people, only 1 person got back to me, and that was because they were my friend. The other 6 people didn't even reply. And I was getting so frustrated by this because they knew this was important, but they weren't replying quickly. So in my frustration, I changed the subject line of the email to your job and mine could be at stake. That's right, your job and mine could be at stake. And then I put in the email, please reply today by noon Eastern, exclamation point. Now, this might tick a lot of people off. I don't recommend taking an alarmist approach to your email subject lines or your deadlines, but I can tell you this got a reply from all the locations in just a few minutes. It makes all the difference to go through these point checklists. I'm going to quickly review these for you because it's going to increase your productivity in your email. Number 1 is to remember, definitely remember and prioritize the subject line. Number 2, make it easy to reply to. Number 3, give them a clear deadline. So your next step is to open an email right now and start writing it. And then after you get done writing it, roll through this 3-point checklist and see which one of these strategies you can apply to make that small modification to get a more productive result and increase your probability of success. Now, if you liked this video and you really thought, hey, this is the kind of productivity, get promoted, get the corner office strategies that you've been looking for, make sure you subscribe to this channel and watch the next video.